Welcome back to the channel. Today, it's our Game Week 16 team selection. But first, let's have a look back on how we got on in Game Week 15. We scored a total of 55 points, just 2 points above the average. The Game Week started off terribly. The website crashed after we got early Man City team news, and it meant that I was unable to make a transfer of Phil Foden to Rodrigo from Leeds. Cancelo red card and Foden 1 point cameo off the bench was hugely disappointed given the fixture. Luckily Haaland got a last minute goal, and Mbemo's penalty made him a good differential for the week, and Trippier scored a huge 12 points yet again. The saving grace of our score this week was Salah with a brace against Tottenham. Unfortunately White on our bench scored 5 points and Greenwood scored 9, but realistically we were never going to play them in our first 11. So 55 points meant that our overall rank went up ever so slightly from 3.3 mil to 3.3 mil in the world. Not ideal, but we've got a strong team on paper for Game Week 16. Can we get one more substantial green arrow ahead of the World Cup? On to our team selection, and first up in goal is Jordan Pickford for the away game against Bournemouth. Everton looked second best against Leicester at the weekend, but before that they kept 2 clean sheets in a row. Pickford should have a good chance of keeping another one in this match as Bournemouth has struggled somewhat in the scoring department. In defence we're starting off with Van Dijk for the home game versus Southampton. It's difficult to say anything positive about Liverpool's defence this season, and since we brought Van Dijk in on the wild card, he hasn't returned more than 2 points in a match. However, I would say he has every chance of doing well in this fixture. He certainly seems like a good differential this game week. Next up in defence is Kieran Trippier. I've heard some FPL managers are considering transferring out Trippier for a single week based on favourable fixtures elsewhere. I completely disagree and believe Newcastle were the favourites heading into this home game against Chelsea. Chelsea haven't been prolific in attack, and Newcastle have the joint best defensive record in the league this season. He's staying in my team for sure. Joining him is Cancelo for the home match against Brentford. Man City got caught out last week with a Fulham counter-attack, and Cancelo picked up a deserved red card. However, we shouldn't hold this against him as this week's fixture looks a very appealing one for City. With a good chance for clean sheet and the off chance of an attacking return, Cancelo definitely makes our starting 11. Finally in defence this week is Ben White for the away game against Wolves. Arsenal shut out Chelsea perfectly last weekend, and I lost out on White's clean sheet points by putting him on the bench. You would say that Wolves have one of the weakest attacks in the league, and so Arsenal defenders look to be a good choice for this game week. First up in midfield is Fabio Carvalho for Liverpool. Carvalho will be my transfer out this week for either Trossard or Rashford. I think I prefer Trossard for Game Week 16, but the problem is I currently have just the right amount of money to make the double switch. Carvalho and Mbemo for Trossard and Archer. This will leave 0.0 mil in the bank. I may have to make this move soon to avoid potential price changes. However, the alternative is to wait for team news on Friday and bring Rashford in instead. What do you guys think I should do in this situation? Let me know down below in the comments. Phil Foden joins the team in midfield for the home game against Brentford. It's become virtually impossible to predict who Pep plays in his starting 11 for each game, which makes Foden an uncertainty. However, this is a great fixture for Man City, and if Foden starts, he could end up on double digits. City are the early fixture this weekend, but unlike the last couple of weeks, I'm having the team set before early team news to avoid further frustration during another website crash. I'm starting Foden either way. Joining him this week is Martinelli for the away fixture against Wolves. Arsenal did everything they needed to shut out Chelsea last weekend and get a fairly comfortable win. I expect them to be a little less conservative, press higher and have more scoring opportunities against Wolves. I would say that Arsenal attacking assets play in one of the most desirable fixtures this weekend and have the potential of scoring some big points. Martinelli will start for me this weekend and most likely stay in my squad over the World Cup. Next up is Mo Salah for the home game against Southampton. Last week we finally got what we were used to from Salah, a double-digit haul. This week Salah is arguably a great captain pick as Southampton have multiple fragilities, especially in defence. Ralph Hasenhüttl was sacked earlier this week, so there is a chance of a response from the team. I just think Liverpool will be a bit too much for them in this game. Finally, to make up the 5-man midfield is Saka away at Wolves. Similar to Martinelli, Saka always poses a threat in attack, with multiple avenues of gaining points: corners, penalties, and from open play. Another genuine captain option this weekend, as I fully expect Arsenal to dominate this game and have numerous scoring opportunities. Wolves will likely sit tight with 10 players behind the ball, and it's just a question of whether Arsenal will be able to penetrate that defence. Up front this week is just the one attacker, and it's of course Erling Haaland for the home fixture versus Brentford. Fulham were holding off 10-man City well last week, but you could see how the dynamic of the game changed immediately after Haaland was introduced off of the bench. Man City were able to play more directly with crosses into the box, and Haaland is one of the only players in their squad who allows them to play like this. I fully expect him to start this weekend to allow City to get off to a good start and have the match wrapped up by half time, which means that on the bench this weekend we have Begovic, Greenwood, Mbemo and the suspended Dalot. A very weak looking bench, and the plan is to make it even weaker by transferring out Mbemo and bringing in Archer, so that we can strengthen our starting 11 by moving Carvalho out for Trossard or Rashford. I'm also interested in Perisic for this 1 week. These moves are completely dependent upon whether our whole team remains fit following the midweek cup games. It seems like a sensible week to hold on to the 2 transfers until we get team news on Friday. All that leaves is for us to pick a captain for the weekend, and I am going to give the armband to Haaland, regardless of the early team news announced on Saturday morning. I'm fairly sure Haaland starts this game against Brentford, and I trust him to outscore all the other players in my team. I am tempted by Salah at home to Southampton, and even Saka away at Wolves, but I just think it would be very risky to bet against Haaland, as he could really punish our rank heading into the World Cup break. So that concludes our Game Week 16 team. What do you think about the team for this weekend ahead, and how's your team looking? Let us know down below in the comments, and best of luck for the weekend ahead.